Guys, welcome back to another episode of Shifting Gears. My name's Greyson Harris. That's Whitney Cal. And we are here to bring you all the latest and greatest in freight news and everything else happening in the world. The big news in freight is pretty easily going to be that I-95 collapse in Philadelphia that happened over the weekend, happened early Sunday morning. So a section of I-95 in Philadelphia collapsed after a fiery crash involving a gasoline-loaded tanker. The damage, as you would imagine, is pretty severe considering it collapsed, and it could take months to replace the elevated road because, again, they have to rebuild an interstate. So this is obviously going to cause plenty of traffic issues, not just in the city, but really for the entire East Coast, because this is an interstate that goes from like Miami up to Maine, basically. And so now drivers are having to take a 40-mile detour just to get around it. So how this happened, authorities believe that the driver of that tanker lost control while he was going through a curve on the off-ramp. And so the truck ended up landing on its side, ruptured the tank, and then caught on fire. Initially, there weren't any injuries reported, but then after they got the fire taken care of and cleaned up a little bit, turns out that the driver of the truck did end up dying in the crash, and investigations are still underway to kind of figure out exactly what happened. The intensity of the fire was pretty crazy. I mean, this thing lasted like an hour before they were able to put it out. And then once they did put it out, they realized that the entire northbound lane of that section was completely gone, just completely gone. The southbound lane is still there, but it's so damaged that you really can't even drive on it anyway. So that entire section of the interstate is going to need quite a bit of renovations and rebuilds there. So
I will say, though, this is not happening in Ohio
or
on the West Coast. And so I will, at least, this is tragic news. And this is an interstate that impacts a lot of our supply chain. I mean, not just people that are daily commuters, but also a big portion of the supply chain runs up and down this part of the interstate. So
I mean, upwards of 160,000 vehicles use that part of the interstate daily. So that's 160,000 vehicles at least that are going to get affected per day there. So in the meantime, authorities have implemented measures such as adding extra cars to commuter trains, helping out with detours, and they're also offering free parking at mass transit lots to alleviate some of the traffic problems.
A lot of respect for how quick that turnaround was.
Seriously.
For problem solving. Honestly, I'm a little surprised that today is Thursday. This happened less than a week ago, and local authorities are already troubleshooting, problem solving as best they can.
Yeah, Philly is usually a lot quicker to destroy their city than they are to rebuild it, so good on them. All right, so that's what's going on the East Coast. The West Coast, though, is actually seeming to improve a little bit.
Better news.
Yeah, finally. So the West Coast sports, we've been talking about them for a little bit. They had some labor issues over the last couple of weeks that impacted a lot of the drayage operations, loading, unloading, and ultimately affects the entire supply chain after that. So after months of negotiations, they actually reached a tentative 6-year labor contract. Pacific Maritime Association and the International Longshore and Warehouse Union met to agree on that deal. So the agreement is subject to ratifications by both parties, and no specific details have been released yet, but this is easily the biggest step in the right direction that they've taken in a very long time. The Labor Secretary, Julie Su, she played a very key role in facilitating the agreement. The agreement itself was reached right before peak season, thankfully. I think I saw the other day that they're expecting upwards of somewhere between 50 and 60 ships to arrive in the coming months, which is the most they've had since August. So getting this fixed when they did is extremely important.
Right. This was very timely for them.
Absolutely. So cargo volumes on the West Coast have been decreasing for a while, mainly because of these labor issues and also sanctions on China trade going through the Pacific. The Port of Los Angeles, for example, they're currently operating at about 70% capacity, which for the Port of Los Angeles is very low, considering they are usually the busiest port in the country. That 30% shortfall is credited to macroeconomic factors, so just the economy, basically, just the economy.
Not just domestic, but the global economy has also seen a turn.
Absolutely. And also just cargo being redirected to the East Coast and the Gulf Coast because of these problems. So this successful labor deal is very important, obviously, in its stages. What could be a rebound second half for West Coast ports, and they'll need it to kind of get back on the map, because they got steamrolled by East Coast ports and Gulf Coast
Well, and I
ports over
will
the last 2
say,
months.
so I was just in Savannah at the
Mhm.
port and had a nice little rundown of what's happening with the global economy. And while a lot of people would migrate, right, from the west to the east,
Mhm.
just kind of how it's been, which is why we're seeing such a low capacity operation or operational like capacity percentage at the moment. A lot of companies have contracts. And so
Mhm.
when we're seeing all of these ships that are just like sitting, it's not necessarily that there's just no room for them. It's just that the contracts are the ones that are coming in first. They're being serviced first. They're being taken care of, and so neither port is operating in the ways that are optimal. And so now that we're seeing the labor shortages kind of being alleviated,
Mhm.
those ships that have been just kind of sitting at the port while they're waiting their turn, so to speak, there are new solutions for them that are opening up, which is really great because a lot of people thought, oh, they're just sitting at the port, it's taking forever. It's
Yeah.
no, the people that have the contracts are obviously going to be able to skip the line. And so I'm glad that this is happening as fast as it is and when it is, because our economy has been suffering
Mhm.
as the West Coast ports are locked down a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely go hand in hand. So, I mean, the performance of the ports on the West Coast is still going to depend pretty largely on the
Mhm.
economy, even with this deal being done. But the deal being done was definitely the first thing that needed to happen. So, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, it just lifts the entire country's
Stay
economy, and
tuned.
not just the West Coast. Yeah, we'll keep you updated on that because I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about.
Speaking of updates,
Oh yes, I'm excited for this
guys,
story.
I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the Florida professor, Dr. Joseph Dituri,
Hmm.
who wanted to break a world record of time lived underwater. So his goal was 100 days. We checked in. He was at like 70 something
75, I think, is what it
when we
was.
last spoke. He made it.
Yeah,
Well
he's
done.
alive.
Well done, Dr. Dituri. So he has set the record for longest time living underwater without depressurization, surpassing the previous mark, which was 73 days. So
Hmm.
he was right on that cusp last time.
Hmm.
And just passing that record wasn't enough for him. He wanted to make it
An
100
even
days.
100. Yeah.
Yep. He is now known as Dr. Deep Sea, a new
That's a good
title
name.
for him.
That's a good name for a DC villain.
Mm-hmm. So he conducted daily experiments to better understand the effects of prolonged exposure to this type of pressure. Don't worry, he was still being checked on by medical professionals at regular intervals. During his stay, he improved his sleep cycle. He saw reduced inflammation and lowered his cholesterol. He also emerged 1 inch shorter than when.
So not all positives.
Honestly, for
That was the
longevity,
inflammation that got reduced. Was
for
his height? Yeah.
for the longevity of a lifespan, I'm already a bit petite, but I would take another inch off just to know that my
Hmm.
body is emerging in a healthier state than it was when I got there. I'm interested to see how long those medical boosts last. If
Yeah.
it is short term or if these were like long term.
I wonder if he also expands out now that he's back. If he gets
If
that
he'll
one
get
inch
taller.
back. Yeah. If it's like a rebound effect where he lost an inch when he went down, and then he came back up, and his body's like, oh, and overreacts, and he grows like 5 inches. That could be a hack right there. I'm
That'd be
gonna
a
look into
weird
that.
hack. I feel like
I'm gonna
that's
look
got to
into
be
that.
so rough on your body. But there was a lot of other good things that came into this experiment. So he interacted with thousands of students during his stay. He taught a university course underwater and welcomed over 60 visitors to his habitat. So there was opportunity. Whoever those 60 people were, I'm really jealous.
What a house party.
That they got to go experience this and be part of history being made. He does plan to present his findings at a medical conference later this year in November. So stay tuned yet again to hear a little bit more about that. I plan on following up on this to see what else he discovered while he was underwater.
Yeah, I did a little extra digging on this before we came in here, and he was doing an interview after he came up talking about how James Cameron, the movie director, like Avatar and Titanic, he actually, I think he still holds the record for deepest dive in a submersible. Like basically went to the bottom of Mariana's Trench, like not quite the bottom, but almost there. Dr. Dettori, I hope I'm saying that right. Dettori, said he was reading over some of his findings, and one of the things that James Cameron found while he was down at the bottom of the ocean was a type of sea lice. He found a type of sea lice near the Mariana Trench, like the bottom of it, that contains a partial cure for Alzheimer's. And so that inspired him to think, well, maybe all of the answers that we need for all these questions that we're asking are already here, and we're just not looking deep enough, or we're not looking in the right places. And that's part of his I guess experiment proves that. I mean, he improved his sleep cycle, reduced inflammation, lowered his cholesterol. There seem to be some benefits in the bottom of the ocean that we're probably not exploring enough. And this guy might be the pioneer there. So, I mean, who really knows what other kinds of diseases or problems are just waiting to be cured at the bottom of the ocean.
Not everything needs to be, chemically man-made. Some of the stuff that we're searching for
is on the bottom of the ocean.
Right. And that is one of the least explored. We know more about space than we do the ocean, and which is crazy terrifying to me. But right. But I'm glad that we're breaking those barriers, and we have people like Dr. Deshuri, Dr. Deepsea, that are interested in seeing, what else is out there that's actually right under our nose. When we push our limits, we're able to break into new spaces for all of humanity. So it's very exciting. I am interested to see what he reports back with in November with his findings.
Yeah, real life Aquaman. I'm here for it.
Okay.
All right, guys. So I have some somewhat bad news. Pat Sajak, host of Wheel of Fortune for over 40 years now, is going to be retiring at the end of next season. So this feels like an era is ending, and to commemorate this and just to sort of pay homage to the legend Pat Sajak, we're going to draft game shows. So we're going to go alternating picks until we each have 5, and then at the end we're going to compare and see who has the 5 best game shows. Deal?
Who's voting on the best?
The audience.
The peanut gallery.
and the peanut gallery, of course. We know that they will make their opinion heard whether we want them to or not.
To introduce them, we have Melissa, Laura, and Grace. I do not regularly call them the peanut gallery. These are very valuable members of our marketing team.
Very valuable peanuts. All right. Well, let's get this game started. I'll let you get the first pick here.
Okay. I'm starting with Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Why?
I was a theater nerd, and I love improvisational theater. I think it's fun. I like that the points don't mean anything at all, and it's all audience engagement based.
Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite shows of all time, and I didn't add it to this list. So
I'm already winning.
All right. With my first pick, I'm going to take Jeopardy. Rest in peace to the
standard.
Rest in peace to the GOAT, Alex Trebek.
Okay.
Don't disrespect.
That's fine.
Don't disrespect the Beck.
I don't.
What I like about Jeopardy is that 98% of the time when I watch it, I feel like an idiot. But that 2% of the time when I do get the answer right, I'm a genius.
My next game show is Family Feud.
Oh, that was going to be my pick. Yeah, I mean, you're getting Steve Harvey. So
everybody loves a sassy Steve.
Yeah, everyone does. Okay, with my second pick, I'm going to take Deal or No Deal.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why I think is because it inspired one of the most frustrating arcade games that I've ever played in my entire life. Those briefcases are impossible to follow.
I'm going to go with the matching game.
Ooh, the matching. Tell me more about the matching game.
It
seems pretty self-explanatory.
It is. It's actually they revamped it. So it was a pretty old game, and there were celebrities, and they were matched based off of like different criteria and questions that they would align with, and they kind of like rotated around. It was really fun. They reinvented it. I don't remember the date, but Laura, do you know?
I don't know the exact date, but I know that RuPaul's Drag Race does a version of it too, called the Snatch Game. And I'm serious. They do.
So
oh my god, that was awesome.
The matching game, because it's inspired a lot more than just that.
Fair. I can't argue with you there. All right. With my third pick, give me Wipeout.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Big red balls. Need I say more?
Nope. Next for me is Shark Tank.
Oh, that's a game show?
It was labeled as one.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give it to you.
There's a winner and a loser, and there are judges. So.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. With my fourth pick, give me Cash Cab.
Ooh, that's a good
Give
one.
me Cash Cab.
That one gets on my nerves a little bit.
Well, it made me think that, as an 8-year-old, if I went to New York City, like every cab was just a game show. And so, yeah. So I just assumed that New York was just a giant like TV set where everybody just goes to play game shows. Bring it back. I don't know if it still
How
exists or
cultured
not.
of you.
Bring back the Cash Uber.
My next pick would be The Wall.
Oh, The Wall. That's a good one. That's a new one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought so. Fifth, give me Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of the greatest sound effects in game show history.
Yep. We all know exactly what you're talking about.
I think Phone a Friend should be in every game show.
Yes.
And Regis Philbin. Come on.
Everybody loves Regis.
Everybody loves Regis. So, all right. So list off your 5. Give me your team.
My team?
Yep. 1 through 5 that you picked.
Is Shark Tank,
Mm-hmm.
Whose Line Is It Anyway, Family Feud, The Wall, and The Matching Game.
That's pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, I got Jeopardy, Deal or No Deal, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Cash Cab, and Wipeout.
Okay.
Peanut Gallery, who are we picking here?
Like, we just pick one of
If
them.
who's got the best roster of game shows?
Shark Tank, all the way.
So just because she has Shark Tank, you're taking hers?
I love Shark Tank. I watch it like
Mm.
nightly.
Honestly,
Okay.
you can't beat Who's Line. Like,
Oh,
that's really hard to beat.
I'm winning.
But this is a team game, though. We're not
Yeah,
saying who picked the best player here, who's got the best team.
Yeah, her team.
I think her team was pretty solid. I think Wipeout was your like biggest.
Yeah, Wipeout was your biggest.
Oh,
But
man.
then every other one just
Was
you know.
mid.
I think if you had traded one of yours in for either Name That Tune or the Newlywed Game, you probably would have
I kind of want to trade out Jeopardy for the Masked Singer.
Ooh.
That was a good one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You would have been a little more competitive.
Mm-hmm. Still lose, though. I think Whose Lines It Anyway takes it because that's my number 1 on any list. I just didn't think to add it as a game show.
I didn't either. It was one of my backups,
Yeah.
just in case.
Well, because technically there's no points, but there is a winner.
Yeah.
Why do we even invite you guys?
We're cool.
They think they're cool.
So the moral of the story is everybody should go home and watch Whose Line Is It Anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah, they've actually rebooted that show, and it's not bad. They still
No.
got like Colin and Ryan and Wayne on there,
Mm-hmm.
so it's still pretty good. But all right, congratulations on winning. I'm only a little bit mad about it.
Any game show that's had Gene Simmons on there
Yeah,
as a guest
that's
and
yeah.
Robin Williams, they just
And-
had such an all-star lineup. It was really memorable. That
Yeah.
was a high note from my childhood.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm a loser. I'm gonna go cry in the car.
Boo.
Boom. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good place to end it then. See you guys. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully next week I can win whatever game we're playing.
Bye.
Bye.